I'm going to go ahead and run the first of the videos from Obsolete Studio in Austria. And we'll alternate between the recorded reports and the live report. So we'll mix it up a little bit.
Erwin, mute your mic.
Hello guys, we are Obsolete Studio from Vienna. We are all getting older, but the studio is still really young. So come on, I'll show you. So, we are working mostly at the intersection of art and politics. We work on the 300 Gestapo series. For example, here you can see some covers that we do for our next public printing workshop on self-publishing and automatic drawing. We've also done performances, for example, on democracy and democratic participation, and we'll do a performance in end of June on corruption in the Austrian political system. So I guess, yeah, we do workshops, we love to print, we do signs, comics and performances, trying to collaborate with as many people as possible and all those who are interested in manual printing. So please come here. We're looking forward to get to know you all on the 10th of June.
This is Yoshi.
That's Yoshi. That's Marlena.
Hi, I'm Marlene.
And the cameraman.
Hi, I'm Julian.
Julian. My name is Helena, and yeah, see you on the 10th of June.
I see Julian's here, and I assume can answer some questions a little bit later. Morgan, would you like to unmute and tell us what's going on?
Yeah, for sure. I'll just get my screen up and running. So, hi everyone. My name is Morgan. I'm currently in Okotoks, Alberta, Canada. And a little bit about me, I am a recent graduate from Emily Carr University of Art and Design in Vancouver, BC, which is where I was for the past 4 years. And I graduated with an industrial design undergrad degree. And so during that degree, I was able to learn about risographs, mimeographs, and duplicators generally. So this is the risograph that I learned on at our school's communication design area. It's a 2-barrel duplicator. And during my time there, I was able to be a research assistant for a project called the Stationery Project. This is their Instagram account. And we would go and take leftover prints from the risograph and from other places in the school and then create stationery products from notebooks to calendars to sticky notes, and then sell them as a way to deal with all of the paper that was going to waste at the school. Then I've also been able to do some personal projects using a risograph, including this workbook zine for a design group that I started last year called the Roving Designers. And then my grad project, which just finished, was a card game called Care Community Action, which used the risograph heavily for both the boxes and all of the cards. And the object of the cards is as a design learning tool to look at everyday scenarios and think about them through the lens of design. On the mimeograph side, I'm in the process of restoring 2 different mimeographs. So the first one is this Gestetner 420, which I got for free in Calgary, Alberta. And you can see the bottom plate, it's from Gestetner, Canada in Don Mills, Ontario. Right now, the handle's not working so great, so I'm looking for any tips or advice on how to get it back up and running, but that's a summer project. And then I also have this smaller Printomatic, which prints up to postcard size. And I've been able to get that one to work since it's a bit simpler. And so I'm trying to get my hands on some more stencils for that to be able to create some postcards and other small zines. So future projects that I'm hoping to work on is continue the restoration of those two mimeographs, locate some more stencils and inks that can be available in Canada, as from what I've found, there isn't much of a demand for them up north, as well as doing stuff like this, outreaching to other Mimeo and Brizo enthusiasts, and then finding ways to bring other people into the Mimeo fold, as it were, and find other people in my own communities who are interested in the history and the process of working with Mimeos. Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be surrounded by so many other Brizo and Mimeo enthusiasts.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Erwin helped me get my crank on one of my machines going, and I can maybe help you diagnose that at some point. Side
That
note.
would be amazing. Thank you so much, JS.
Let's see, next, we have a video from Tomoko. If I can get that going here. Whoops. All right. In the meantime, you can listen to my cats fighting in the background.
At least it's not your kids.
Hi everyone in the guild. Nice to meet you. My name is Tomoko Kanzaki. I'm a Japanese printmaker and I use mimeograph to create my works. I'm also the author of this book. The Rich-san introduced at the last meeting. Thank you your introduction, Rich-san. It is 2 a.m. in Japan. And we are having this meeting, so I will spend you out this video message. Today, I will spend you some information about mimeographs in Japan. And while I can answer after the last meeting, I would like to speak you English, but I'm not using speaking in English, so I will speak in Japanese from here on. I have added subtitles, so please feel free to watch it with automatic translation. Thank you. 画面を共有しますね。はい、ギルドということで、いろいろお話しさせていただきます。はい。で、日本での、当社版ミメオグラフはこういったものになります。皆さんがご存知のようなものとは少し違うかと思うんですけども、こういったものになります。日本では、当社版と当社版であるとか、こうですね。ガリ版という名前で呼ばれています、ミメオグラフは。で、これは何かというと、ファイルプレートプロセスという仕組みになります。はい。ミメオグラフのファイルプレートプロセスっていうものが日本ではメインで使われている技術となっていました。で、ファイルプレートプロセスの歴史ということですごく簡単に紹介しますと、皆さんがご存知の通りですね、ズッカートさん、エジソン、で、ゲステトナがファイルプレートプロセスっていうものを、1877年、80年 に、発明特許取ったりしてるんですけども、そのうちのエジソンのものですね。これが1893年のシカゴ万博の時に AB ディック社からエジソンのミメオグラフとして出品されるんですよね。出展ですかね。されます。で、日本の堀井進次郎という方がいまして、その時にシカゴの万博の時にこれを持ち帰ったらしいんですよ。当時からその日本では簡易的な印刷が欲しいと思ってたんですけれども、そういった経緯もあって視察に行ったんですよ。研究をしに。で、こういったものに出会って、で、日本で販売できるような形で改良して、で、売ったと。ことになります。これが当社版、日本での当社版ですね、ミメオグラフの元となってます。で、日本ではやっぱりタイプライターっていうのがあまり実用的ではなかったところがありまして、文字数がすごく多いんですよね。で、文字数が多いから、なかなか文字数に対応したタイプライターという開発もあまり進んでなかったですし、あることはあるんですけども、やっぱり一般の方が気軽に導入できるようなものではなかったので、独自の進化が起こってきます。で、独自の進化って何かというと、やはりヤスリの開発が大きいかなと思います。ファイルプレートプロセスという仕組みというのは、ヤスリの上に原子を置いて、鉄筆スタイラスで製版するものなんですけども、そのヤスリの、種類がいろいろ開発されたりとか、技術的にも製版方法ですね、それぞれ人々が研究されたりしていました。はい。で、ちなみに言いますと、これ表は私の書籍から取ってきたんですけども、この XB っていうヤスリがよく使われているヤスリで、私もこれを使って絵を描いたりとかしてます。粗くなると絵とか絵画っていうんですけれども、とかアートとか、目の粗いヤスリですね。で、細かいヤスリになると、もっと C とか XD とかっていう名前になってくるんですけど、そういったものもたくさんあります。はい。で、アートワーク、これ私の作品なんですけども、この XB のヤスリでここまで製版できたりとか、結構幅広い表現とか、もちろん開発当初は文字書き用の文房具ではありましたけども、いろいろ製版の工夫というところでこういったものも絵を描くことができます。参考として、歴史ですね。日本の、ファイルプレートプロセスの歴史であったりとか、アートワークですね。そういったことも、2年前かな、2年前のカンファレンスで、上野久美学芸員がお話ししてくださっているので、またよろしければこちらの方もご覧ください。で、前回の、ミーティングですね。の時に結構質問がありました。タイプライターのステンシルペーパーの購入方法なんですけども、まだこちら日本のダイトっていうところが、作ってます。はい。で、もちろんここは輸出用に作ってるみたいなんで、まだまだ注文もしっかりと受けていらっしゃいます。で、大東さんは、和紙の加工会社になります。はい。パーマペーパーというか、髪の毛をパーマする ですね、紙とかっていうのを作ったりとか、一番私たちに関係あるのは、タイプライターステンシルペーパーであったりとか、デジタルマスターですね。イソマスターとかデュプロのマスターとかも作られています。はい。で、タイプライターステンシルペーパーの、大東さんのタイプライターステンシルは、こういったものになりまして、特徴として、この、日本の和紙ですね、天狗町紙っていう和紙があるんですけども、その和紙に加工したものになります。これは当時からゲステッドナーが開発した当初の、和紙ですね。発売した製品に使われてた和紙なんですけども、天狗上紙という和紙になるんですけど、それにこうコーティングしたものになります。ですんで、ここですね、デュロタイプの、化学繊維のタイプのものとはちょっと性質が違うかもしれないんで、一度試していただきたいかなと思って、リッチさんの方に私の方はサンプルをお送りしました。また、使い勝手とか、リッチさんとかが、お試しいただいて良さそうでしたら、大東さんに発注するのもいいのかなと思いました。はい。で、他になんですけども、私のウェブサイト、もっとお話ししたかったんですけども、私のウェブサイトとか YouTube チャンネルの方で、ファイルプレートプロセスのことをお話ししてたりとか、YouTube ライブで質問とかもお答えしたりとか、技術的なところですねというのも実演したりしてますので、またよろしければどうぞ見てください。ではこんな感じですね。はい。こんな感じで終わろうと思います。はい。また私の方でギルドのミーティングの様子を見てますので、また楽しく参加させてもらいたいと思います。では、See you!
Thanks, Tomoko. I always learn a ton when we get together. And Tomoko-san did a workshop for some printmakers here in Iowa City via Zoom recently. We had a great experience, and we're hoping to do that again soon. So, and as she said, she's sending me some samples of the Daito masters. My thinking was that maybe we could, some of us could group together and do a bulk order if they turn out to be something that will work out for people, and we could have one order shipped to the US. So stay tuned for more info on that. Did I see Jim Pennington enter here a little while ago? If so, can you unmute and maybe tell us what's going on with you?
All right, okay.
There he is.
Yeah. Sorry I'm late. I misread the start time. I thought it was 7 p.m., not 6 p.m. It was just the way it was laid out on the Facebook page.
Oh, my apologies. You know, I may have made a mistake because in the US we switched to daylight savings time, and I copied the old invitation. So
that's right. You're right. I misread it. I didn't read it properly. That's my story in life. I didn't read things properly. So, do you want me to carry on with what I brought? I brought a bag of books up down next to me here. Do you want me to talk through them now, or is this?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you do it now? Are you prepared? You ready?
As prepared as I'll ever be. I'm afraid this is going to temporize what I've done. I hope you can see them all properly. Let me just I can see how. Okay, right. one of the things I've been doing is where I see books that mention duplicating, not as part of the structure of whatever they're talking about. I pick them up and put them in a pile somewhere. One of the ones I found was one called Secret Bulletin, and it was a People's Republic of China publication from the 1970s, and it's the story of two kids who go out who are going out and spreading communist thoughts and against the oppressive pre-revolutionary people. I can't remember what they called them, but it has the most insidious looking pictures in it, showing the ruling class is showed looking very ugly, whereas the up and coming political class are very pretty. Like these two children getting ready to duplicate on, I would assume a kind of flatbed stencil process. It isn't the jelly type thing. In fact, there's a conversation about how you need to get the ink consistency right, otherwise the stencils lift off when you put the ink on or the paper on and whatever. And the little boy, he's the one that knows how to do it. He takes control of the operation because he knows how to mix the ink. And look, there's the girl mixing the ink. So I quite like this one. They go round town shoving the leaflets through people's letterboxes, and they manage to avoid getting caught by the yes, here's some ugly soldiers. They managed to avoid getting caught by the ugly soldiers, and eventually the revolution happens, and the rest is history. Okay, so that's one thing I got. And in fact, there's a theme with the duplicator mentions that I've come across. It tends to be mentioned with always in the context of some kind of subversive activity. For instance, this book here, which I hope you can see them all right. This book here is a tale of by a Malayan Chinese who provides an unforgettable picture of his country under Japanese occupation. And in this book, there's the invasion, and he wants to be able to coordinate information about that will raise the hopes of the people who have just been invaded and overcome. And he finds an old duplicator. He goes looking for it, actually, in a junk yard. The person who sold it to him, and this is under the time of the occupation, the person who sold it to him didn't know really what it was. He refurbishes it. He gets paper from another junkyard, a kind of recycling place where loads of material, because they used to really seriously recycle papers and clothes and things so they could make more paper and clothes and whatever. And in his instance, the paper he uses, he takes out of children's school books and account books, and he uses that paper to duplicate onto. Anyway, he gets caught, the poor sod, but he didn't get killed. But there's an example of one, and there's another one, I haven't got it with me, a book by someone called William J. Pomeroy, called The Forest, which tells much the same story during the guerrilla warfare in the Philippines in the early 1950s. And he traveled round with a duplicator. It doesn't describe it exactly. I can't imagine he was lugging around any kind of big rotary heavy one. It was probably a flatbed device, you know, the Gestetner's in a box. And he was doing exactly the same thing, subversive information, keeping people up to date with news that they wouldn't be getting otherwise. That was during whatever war was going on in the Philippines in the 1950s. The other ones I collect, I try and get examples of duplicated material as old as possible. And unfortunately, the oldest one I've got is doesn't seem very old, 1939. That's what it says there. But they're nicely old ones because the ink goes kind of brown in that back then. The paper's quite smooth. This is a technical, it's not technical, academic publication of some pamphlets that were supposedly written by Jonathan Swift for the University of California in 1939, San Francisco. It's just the oldest one I've got. It's the only reason I've got it. I haven't found anything older. There must be something older. I've got a collection of magazines over there, but issue #1 was done on a duplicator. That's the only issue I haven't got in that collection. They moved from being duplicating it to litho pretty sharpish because they wanted to up the quality because they thought that their magazine required to have, it was a poetry magazine, required to be more, warrant the price they were selling it at. So that was 1939. What else have I, the next one, I got a yeah. Right, this little bugger, big, chunky, I don't know whether you can see that, but it's it's not privately published, it's pre-publication report about a survey done in Dar es Salaam in 1950s and 1957. The thing I love about this is that it was done for Tanganyikan government, and the paper has got a watermark on it which says Gestetner Tanganyika government on it. It's beautiful. I didn't do a photo of that one. I forgot. It's around somewhere, but I can't find it. But look how thick it is. It's wonderful. It's just, and it's bound. How is it bound? It's got, I think it's got kind of screws in it, you know, industrial screws in it. There's another one. There's another one which is quite thick. I've seen thicker. This one, rehearsal for the year 2000. It's dated 1980. This one, but I like this one because he talks about when he was starting off using a duplicator in an information place in Notting Hill in the 1960s called Bit, and another one called Link. And for the people who know counterculture in London, those two names have a bit of resonance. They're not as well known as International Times, but they were there. There was this whole culture of duplicated magazines in the 60s in London and around everywhere. You know, in any metropolis, there would always be someone who'd managed to get hold of a duplicator and produce counterculture stuff. And I like this one because it actually has he gives a breakdown of how much it cost him to produce the previous publication. And he says that, yeah, it cost him 387, 20 quid for the stencils, 126 for the paper, etc., etc. The most important thing is, he said, to do that magazine or book, it involved 250,000 sheets of paper, which, because it was a thick one, and they were doing 200 copies, and that's a lot of paper to hand collate. And he says, well, industrial staples, £8 to put it together. The other interesting thing is, he says, the first book he did, I did my trick of getting a new duplicating machine on approval, but I needed to do the trick again. But this time, as it was a Gestetner Limited last time, I rang up Roneo this time and got them to give me their brand new 850 model. However, he went on to say, the duplicator salesman had to come round because there was something got broken, and when he cleaned the machine up before the duplicator salesman came along, but not enough, and the duplicator salesman could tell by the amount of crud that was inside the cylinder that he'd been putting 250,000 sheets of paper through the machine instead of just using it to work out how it worked for a weekend. So I like that one. If anybody actually comes across it, it's fascinating, at the front of countercultural history in London, and I picked it up by accident. And I'm not throwing it around and saying how wonderful it is because I picked it up not knowing what it was, and then I read it, and okay, somewhere on page it actually mentions me, which I can't, for some kind of arts council thing I did in 1972. I don't know why he picked on me. There were 4 of us who did an arts council application for new arts activities. There was one group that wanted to get money to build a kind of table. They were a furniture making cooperative, and the table was built in such a way that the seats, if you sat, you had to sit in a certain way, otherwise the seats kind of didn't balance, and anybody else who joined you at the table had to adjust their posture so that the table stayed balanced. It was a sort of really odd sort of way of cooperatively interacting at the dinner table. That was anyway. We all got a grant, and then the Daily Mail got hold of the idea and realised that this was the Arts Council wasting money, so we all had our money taken away from us. One of those things. What else have I got? I've got these old book catalogues from the 1980. No. Whether you can see that clear enough. These ones I like because they have the ink again has gone brown and whatever. This one here, I can't find a publisher. It's have I got a date on this one? I can't find a date on it either. I can't find a price. One way you can date things in England is if the price is in pounds, shillings and pence, and you know it's before 1971. But this hasn't got a price on. It's to do with magicians' tricks. The reason I like it is because it uses 3 different papers, because there's 3 different watermarks on it. Now, I don't know whether this is going to work. This is called screen sharing, right? I took a photograph, and you should hopefully, I don't know, can you see, is that visible, that screen? It shows I should show it that way. There's a lovely watermark, Mercury. There you go. Mercury duplicator. And there's another page which uses, Romeo Bond. So I really like the idea that someone is using self-publishing, printing the stuff themselves, and just getting their paper from wherever they can get hold of it. I don't suppose he did more than about 50 copies of it. So, and yet you still had to use paper from different packets. What else? Now this one, it's a book called Spearhead, which is avant-garde literature from the 50s, 60s, American. What I can't work out on it is, it's not, obviously, it's printed letterpress, but it's got a Henry Miller thing in it. And it's got this strange thing where they blocked out the rude words. And I saw someone use a phrase saying bricked out. And those look like bricks. But I think they're done with a little simple tampon printing system. If anyone can tell me how it's done, I'd be intrigued to know. What else? Ah, right. More counterculture. A bloke called Emmett Grogan, who was a digger in San Francisco. Can you see that one? A life for keeps. Ringalivio. He ended up in London before he ended up as a hippie in San Francisco. He ended up in London. One of the ways he made money was he and his mate realized that they could make money by writing books that they could write and print themselves and distribute within the Soho, what should we call it? The Soho sex shop, pawn shop industry. And they were called Soho Bibles, these books. And they consisted mainly of text with one or two actual black and white photographs, actually done as photographs rather than printed litho or whatever. Because in fact, back then, it was probably cheaper if you're only going to do 100 copies of something to do 100 photographic prints in your bathroom upstairs with a simple photographic printing process. And then you just collated them with your duplicated text. I haven't got, far be it from me to show you a 1960s, early 60s Soho porn book, but I've got something vaguely like it, which I don't think you can. It's a catalogue for someone selling rubberware in 1971, and it uses the same principle of duplicated text, and photographs interspersed throughout. They're quite, how can I put it? They're quite tame, but they are amusing. And the construction is you gather them together in the finished book, and then you put flat staples through, and then a piece of tape will give it a kind of spine and cover up the staples. The trick, if you're ever doing this, by the way, is to have a hammer with you so you can hammer down the staples at the other side so it keeps nice and flat. Anyway, this is a nice little set of these strange rubberware fetish catalogues from the 70s. The other, so that's what that's what Emmett Grogan did in the 60s. And then when he ended up in San Francisco, he found a duplicator, and that's how he produced his the digger leaflets that were generally speaking attacking the police, not attacking the police, but telling the police to stop attacking them. Finally, this book, Frail on North Circular. Is that going to come up? It's got quite a nice cover. It's this is a story about someone who someone gets killed. It's a detective story. Someone gets killed, but the reason they got killed was because they were supposedly has spoken to the police about who was producing what were called call girl sheets. That was they were duplicated sheets, duplicated single sheet of girls with their phone numbers. They were call girls, and they were distributed around clubs and in phone booths and things like that, so that you could ring up a call girl if you wanted one. The duplicator is what gave the detective his first clue as to who it was that had done the murder. So there you go. Is that enough? I haven't got any more.
That's brilliant, Jim. Thank you.
I've actually found evidence of call girl sheets being run on risographs in Uruguay, in Montevideo, Uruguay. So that's still happening. It's a cheap way to do a lot of printing and distribute it over a wide range. But I found mimeographed or yeah, maybe not mimeograph, but risographed call girl flyers. I'll dig them out of my my travel journals and show you guys next time.
Fantastic. Lovely.
Still
Jim-
alive.
Jim, do you know
Well, that's
Tony
a,
Knockabout?
that's
Jim,
an industry which will never finish, isn't it?
yeah. Do you happen to know Tony Knockabout?
Tony, yeah, Knockabout. Yeah, I do. Yeah, Tony. Tony. Forgotten his second name now. But yeah, Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett.
Yes, of
I've
course,
known him for
Tony
years.
Bennett.
I haven't seen him for a long time, but I used to know him in Brighton in the when he first started Knockabout and when he was a Unicorn Bookshop. And yeah, interesting. There's a little piece on Unicorn Bookshop coming out as part of the liner notes to a record, the William Burroughs record that is coming out soon. If anyone's interested in Unicorn Bookshop, it's coming out Paradigm. It's called Ali's Smile, which was the short story that Unicorn Bookshop did a very nice limited edition case-bound edition of with a 33 vinyl album that went with it, and that's being reissued. And I've done the notes for about the Unicorn Bookshop there, so buy it.
Beautiful.
Now.
Well, I love the way this lineup of presentations is going. It's kind of wonderfully all over the place. And we'll continue that with Sal's video next. And everyone remember to post your questions. We'll get to those here shortly.
Our desire to communicate goes way back to the cavemen. We can still admire today those inscriptions and learn something from them. That's what writing and printing have. They inscribe our history, globally and personally. The Latin word scriptum comes from the Proto-Indo-European scrib, which derived into Proto-Italic scribo or scripto, to write. So, in scriptum becomes inscribed, which meant to carve. The words sketch, scribble, script, scriptures, prescription, describe, transcription, etc. all derive from it. That's why before printing, those were called scribes. Manu, meaning hand, together with script, from the word manuscript, written by hand. So, babies scribble, doctors prescribe, sculptors inscribe, journalists describe, and so on. With the advent of the mechanical age by means of the Industrial Revolution, the press was on full steam, and quickly word spread by inventing the book, pamphlets, and newspapers. Replacing the tedious work of copyists, mostly monks doing great calligraphy and illuminors, the woodblock was quick to serve a massification required, and the printed goods could now be declared common. We now shared our visions as cultures, crossing boundaries and borders inside covers, lasting until, well, now. We like to thank Johannes Gutenberg for the press he built on the 15th century upon the discoveries made in Japan and China. Europe was now introduced to metal, hitting the paper with the ink to everyone's advantage and taking out the monopoly of church and the literary elites, even though his first work was that 42-line Bible. Also, with the new metal alloy and the new discoveries, we ramped up the prints with zincogravures and rotogravures, from monochrome to process color, from steam to electricity. So now we have a fully industrial world where all companies are fighting for our attention on the press, on the books, on the poster, everywhere. In a sort of parallel evolution, artists became aware of these new mediums and wanted a piece of it. By not controlling all the means of production, some works came out not as intended, but as a sort of compromise between editor, publisher, and author. That would change mainly in the wargames, since all new offices should modernize and have those obnoxious printers at hand. That little copy machine, a duplicator, stand from the rest. We had now in our hands, in the most democratic sense, a do-it-yourself way to do it all. I guess the Bauhaus and the Russian constructivists had much to say in the 10s and 20s during Futurism, for example, reflecting the changing of times also in the 60s and so on. All countries had different backstories. China hadn't had duplicators, for instance, because of the foreign policies. But Japan revived the old mimeograph into a risocopier machine, which became obsolete and now reborn again. Who is keeping these machines alive? Well, mostly all machines I know are now in the hands of the ones who admire them as a symbol of democratic printing utility, a contestation machine at times, and a way to print other than those flashy flat laser copies and those super expensive and bloody inkjet prints. Perhaps it makes sense there's a handful of enthusiasts, since I cannot believe the mainstream as a herd could get to the conclusion to speak in a personal voice exactly because they tend to behave as a herd and therefore their voice is not personal. For instance, in Portugal, during dictatorship, which lasted almost 50 years, mimeographs were used because offset or letterpress would be noisy enough to attract the police of the state and therefore putting one in prison. I think the duplicator as a symbol of resistance, direct action and individual voice contributes to what I feel this machine was meant to do. Everyone can operate it and maybe everyone should. I am Sal Nukachev from Pay-Per-View Books, and this was a love song for a duplicating device.
Beautiful work, Sal. Really nice.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got just a couple more quick ones, and then we're going to have a tour of Erwin's shop. So I wanted to share quickly a little information about what's going on here. Jeff Shaw in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I coordinated to bring Jeff's mimeograph collection to the Iowa City Press Co-op, where it will be housed and become part of an ongoing mimeograph project there. You see Jeff here in the middle. My friends Adam on the left and Todd on the right drove with me 5 hours north to Minnesota to meet Jeff and load all the gear into a rented truck, and we drove back the same day. And it was really an amazing experience. Jeff is such a great guy, and I can't thank him enough for giving me the opportunity to work on this project with the Iowa City Press Co-op. And I know several other mimeograph zine maker folks from Minnesota got wind of the donation that Jeff was making, and they added their stuff to it as well. At some point I will I'll post a public thank you to everybody, and we'll talk about which equipment came from which people. But it's really a pretty amazing collection of stuff. So we're really excited about it. Here are the machines in storage in Iowa City. I'm currently building some racks to house them, and going through them one by one and assessing what kind of shape they're in and which ones to start on first. And this is going to be a real adventure. So I'm just super excited about it. There are machines from many different eras among Jeff's stuff. And you can see there are A.B. Dicks, there are Rex Roneos, and there are a lot of Gestetners, 400 and 300 series. So undoubtedly we'll part out a few machines. We'll focus on restoring some, and so there may be parts and other things available to those of you who are, who are looking for resources. So stay tuned for that. The Iowa City Press Co-op is the new home of this stuff. This is the interior of the Press Co-op. It's a great facility. Anyone can join. It's a very public facing, non-academic print shop. And so we know that the mimeograph machines are gonna get a lot of use and be available in workshops for the public. And we hope to turn a lot of people on to what we're doing. And here's a picture of the outside of the Press Co-op. It's a great little house, and the entire house is taken up by the Press Co-op. It's part of the Public Space One, and I should thank Public Space One too for hosting this Zoom meeting. We really appreciate all the support they gave. I wouldn't have been able to get up and get the machines without their help. So much thanks to Public Space One. And here's just a shot of one of the Public Space One or one of the Iowa City Press Co-op events that happened recently. You can see everybody's masked. This is COVID. Safety measures were still in effect, but they did a public silkscreen printing day outside, and you can see that this is just the kind of ingenuity and energy that that the Iowa City Press Co-op has. So stay tuned. There will be a lot more information coming as this project develops. The one thing I did want to share that I have been working on is pulling out a lot of the old dried up ink rollers. And after talking to Erwin about whether they could be recovered, he said that I should try and clean them first. And so I did. I soaked them, and then using a couple of other techniques that I sort of figured out by trial and error, I was able to get some fairly well recovered rollers. The nap is pretty good on most of them. A couple of them, it's a little bit flat, but anyway, I can talk more about that in the Q&A period if people want some tips on how I was able to get these cleaned up so well. So anyway, that's all I want to share, and I will be posting more about this soon. So thanks. And Wendy, would you like to take a minute and talk about your project?
Sure, thanks, Rich. My name is Wendy. I live near Sacramento in California. I've entered mimeographs kind of backward. I had a background in letterpress printing for a little while and some desktop stuff. Didn't have a mimeograph machine at all, and realized that my desire for letterpress print shop was related simply to my interest in seeing pre-digital technologies be carried forward into the future for subsequent generations of users for making print of all sorts, art print or informational print, whatever. So by backward, I mean I started a website that's geared toward preserving information about mimeographs, spirit duplicators, hectographs, preserving the information about the techniques, the whatever can be found in print or digital copies of things. So I have I'll type at the end of this. I'll type the website address in the chat bar. But I am setting up a digital library for free downloads, manuals, and anything I can find, basically. So it's manuals, specifications, instructions on how to mimeograph. And then I'm also collecting information that as it comes available to me on supplies, techniques, all the things I'm learning from the Mimeomania group, I'm kind of translating onto my website, and I'm trying to make all of this available to people free of charge, so that one of the things that I noticed when I was starting to research more about mimeographs is I was having a hard time finding information on the machines that I've purchased. So I'll be not really renovating. I have some nearly functional machines, but I'll be cleaning them up, and as I find other things, putting information on how to source parts, or who to contact if you've got things that you can't find parts for, things like that. So I'm kind of hoping to make the website, which is called Mimeograph Revival. I guess I should say that up front, but I will type the website. Trying to make this sort of a central locus of information for people who are either new or, just trying to get things out and make sure that the technologies, do what I can to make sure the technology stays alive. I mean, you guys are all already sort of deep in it, and you're making it, you're extending its life tremendously, especially Erwin over there. So anyway, that's all I have to say, but please come visit. And if there are things that you're looking for, information that you're looking for, or if you have things to share, please contact me, and I will be happy to do what I can to find things. I've still got documents that I haven't put up on the site. So things are still coming, and things are changing, etc. So there you go. I'm going to mute myself and go type the thing into the chat bar.
Thanks, Wendy. I just realized I think I called Jeff Shaw Jim during my presentation. I was still thinking about Jim Penning. Were people able to see those pictures, Morgan? I see that.
We were able to see the thumbnails, so it all worked out.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll post those pictures somewhere too. But rather than monkey with that now. Sorry.
Yeah, Rich, I think the most significant pieces of that, your narrative was great. I think the most significant pieces for me is that those ink rollers that you were able to salvage and redo, I think is it's music to Erwin's ears, which is exciting to hear, any music to Erwin's ears. But that means that it's your process is going to be great. And I think that when these mimeographs are found, is that, you're never going to find a mimeograph or a RISO or sorry, a duplicator with those ink rollers clean, and to find those new rollers like that clean are, I have a couple sets that are clean in the box, but those are rare. So the fact that we can reuse those and put them through a multi-step cleaning process is incredibly important to all this.
Yeah, thanks. And I'd be happy to share more about how I did that. Do people have questions for any of the speakers before we do the Erwin tour? It was a lot to process for sure. Joseph, we were afraid we weren't going to have enough material.
Before we do this, before we close today for sure, and maybe we could just have everyone do it now since we have a captive audience, like hey, everybody chime in. Just put a quick thing in the chat and tell us where you're from, because we like to do a state of the mimeograph world type thing. And we know we've got a couple dozen participants today. But like, tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're from in the messages.
A couple people want more detail on the roller cleaning. I can give you a really quick rundown. I started by soaking them in blanket cleaner, like offset press blanket cleaner, which you could probably use a number of different solvents, but that stuff is relatively non-toxic, and I use the AB Dick stuff. I know Erwin, I think, uses something called Star, And depending on what part of the world you're in, you can probably find something similar. Probably a paintbrush cleaner would be a similar type of thing that'll soften the ink. And I just soaked them in a big pan for about 3 days and occasionally cleaned them with a stiff brush. And then at the end, I sort of blotted them and squeezed out as much of the ink as I could with, a rag or paper towel. And then the final step of the process was to wash them. Soak them in citrus dishwashing detergent, sort of like a degreaser. And then finally I power washed them. So that actually like dislodged the old ink, and that was kind of key. Of course, when you're power washing the stuff out, you want to capture it somehow, either do it in a tank and dispose of any of the ink properly, or depending on where you're at in this country, car washes, like do-it-yourself car wash places have filtration systems, or they're supposed to, for the water that goes out of them. So you could take them into a car wash and blast them with hot soapy water to get the last of the stuff out. But the power washing was really the step that made the big difference. And without that, you just trying to do it by hand, you just can't get the ink out of that fabric. And I was surprised that it didn't just blow the fabric rollers apart. So there's nothing really magical about it. It's just a 3-step process of loosening it with blanket cleaner, then getting as much of the toxic stuff out with a dishwashing detergent, and then finishing up by blasting it out with a power washer. So that's it.
Thanks for that. Now you're gonna have to illustrate and write up a pamphlet that you're gonna then have to print on the Mimeo.
Oh, believe me, it's in process, man.
But do you not find that the nap on the rollers, the cloth, gets a bit kind of smooth and it doesn't hold the ink as well?
Well, you could see in some of those that they were farther down the road than others. When some of them responded better than others. Let me see if I can share that. You can see the one at the top, the green one, the nap is pretty well knocked down, and they kind of get better and better as you go down. A lot of it depends, the old red ink responded very differently than the black. A lot of the black washed out green. It's just kind of all over the place, but for the small sample that I did, in general, it was pretty successful.
Rich, what machines rollers are these?
Those are from they're Gestetner 300 series. Questions for anybody else before we go to Erwin?
Well, the other thing that I find tricky is that the screens that come with old machines can tend to be easily clogged, and cleaning those screens is even trickier than those rollers.
Yeah, I think in general, and Erwin could probably address this, but I think replacing that screen with modern silkscreen fabric and just using the same hardware from the Gestetner and putting in new screen would be the way I would go. Oh, someone suggests a 5-minute break. We have been going for a while. Do people want to do that before Erwin starts? How are people doing on time? Yes, no? 5-minute break? Okay, let's do a 5-minute break and we'll come back. Erwin, is that okay with you?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Okay,
It's okay.
all right.
Yeah, I'm
We
ready.
will,
Yeah.
we will reconvene in 5 minutes and then we'll have the Erwin tour. It's going to be very exciting. I'll see you all in just a few minutes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. This is a sign I made for myself. I think some of you recognize this symbol now, and it's already on this car. I do it verbally all the time. It's parked before the storage here, the biggest duplicator storage in the world. I call it the Willy Wonka factory of the mimeographs. I think anything you want to have, read or scan or everything is, I'm sure it's in this building. I can do a quick tour. This came in today, a rodeo machine with a lot of supplies. You see? I think I can stand on a chair and do a 390 degrees round tour. There are the flatbeds on the wooden flatbeds are stored here, and here piles with stencils and stuff. They came with machines, a folding machine. You see, piles with stuff, piles, and loads of machines, loads of machines. And this is about 65% of the stuff I have. It's not all here. There's more on 3 other locations. I can walk. Still is stuff coming in. Stuff, see parts, loads of parts. Not only Gestetner, only other brands are finding the way to me. This is a German-made German brand, GH. You see? Some Rex rotary stuff I found in Swiss. These are the big ones, the A3 and bigger sized duplicators. It's on this table, and more. There are more. There are about 20 in my collection. I can go up the stairs. I have here all the paperwork is stored here. All the manuals, technical stuff, brochures, everything. It's when you want to scan this. It's I think it's a 2 years job to do it with all the stuff. This also stencil boxes. This is very brief. You see boxes. I have about 25 boxes with stuff like this. All Gestetner bulletins and company info and see like this. Samples. You see? Okay. And here. This is interesting book. Mimeograph Fundamentals. A complete handbook. I think there are some on eBay. Here, the Gestetner company info. You see? These are nice bulletins made in the 30s. Nice work what the possibilities are on the machines. I have about a whole box of this stuff. All the day, you can see it on the day, you see? Very old, very old, very old, very old. These are some machines from Cyclos, from Czechia. Here are all the manuals of the machines and the technical stuff of all the whatever was made. I have here all the stuff. Brochures, boxes full with stuff, old and here. This is all the things, Gestetner stuff, and here. You see, piles with stuff. Piles with stuff. When you want to sort this out, this is more than a year work, I think. It's all brochure, boxes full, loads, boxes full with documentation. Offsets, you can see also, you see it's all from all machines. I have all the stuff. And here, some old Rex rotary machines. You see? And here are racks with machines and cabinets. Tables, stencils, loads of stencil stuff. You see? Piles of stencil boxes right here. And parts everywhere. Brand new parts, you see? I have to sort this out. All parts, brand new in the packages, brand new. Yeah. Also, not only mimeograph, these are small tabletop offset presses. You see? With lighter place works. There's more. Some Gestetner offset, big ones, Gestelite, some Roneo stuff. And parts and stuff everywhere. This came from Swiss. Brand new feed fingers, rollers, ink rollers, screens, projectors, ink guns. You see?
Hey, Erwin.
Yeah.
When did you start your collection?
This is I started collecting with 10 years old. I'm 56. This is more than 40 years, 45 years work. And this is not only this is
Did you start with mimeograph machines or did you start with offset machines?
No, I start with mimeograph. Yeah. I started, it's an old picture, with an ideal machine. You know this from the cutting machines, but they made mimeographs too in the past. Here's one, you see? Ideal mimeograph. I started with this machine. Yeah, some more. These are the other brands, some other Roto, German stuff. This is GH mimeographs. During my moving last year, I sorted everything out. Everything is sorted on machine. Here are some Roneo stuff, Roneo 250. See?
Jonathan wants to know how you source your stuff.
Wow, that's the mystery of everything here.
I have a note for it. Yeah. It's a GH stencil. Yeah, but 20 years ago, I got a machine every week on the market side. Every week, 2 or 3 machines. But then I was not in competition. No one had to want to have it. So the most machines I picked up for €10. Yeah.
Erwin, Jim asks about the feed fingers and if the rubber has all gone hardened and how you deal with that.
Yeah, it's a technique. Especially I refurbish a lot with stuff where you fix the bicycle tires with. I use that rubber. That's soft rubber. That works perfect.
What kind of rubber?
What you use to fix a flat tire of a bicycle.
Oh, okay.
But I can make some videos how to do it. I refurbish some feed fingers of the A3 ones. They are different size, so they are not standard. Here are also some liquid spirit duplicators, Rex rotary. Here's one. Oh, this one in Germany, GH, for €20. Look, looks like new. Very nice machine. You see? Oh, this is all 100 series, 160, 130. This is all 200 series. You see? I sort everything out. Everything is sorted. Here are all the 105 models. Is that the 105? You see? Stencil scanners. Here more, here more, here more. This is the OE1, Gestetner OE1 for the offset plates. You see? Offset plate system, electrostatic. This is to complete my museum collection. Also, other brands stencil scanners from Superfax, Toshifax are here. You see? Loads of typewriters for cutting stencils, loads of typewriters for doing projects with artists. All stored up. You see, loads of stencil boxes are here. You see? I need to use every space to fill up that stuff. Some plain paper copies of Gestetner here. Cabinets are under, all cabinets, wooden. See, all stands for the machines here. All.
Erwin, if someone was going to buy one machine, if they were going to look for one machine, what would be the ideal machine that you would recommend they look for?
It depends on the work you want to do. This is all. It depends on the work. If you want to have very accurate fitting work, precisely point to point, then you need the 66 series of Gestetner. It's here with the secondary feet. And for the more simple work, you need the 3, 420, 410, 400 series. That's this. This is the second toe. These machines are lighter of height, so that's why I place them a little rack higher. The heaviest ones are below, and the lighter ones are higher, stored up. You see? Also more parts and stuff. Here all. What's happening now that a lot of Gestetner employees are finding me online now, and they donated all their rest stuff they have. It's left in their house, or so that's why here. This is all parts, all Gestetner manual and parts. They are in the racks. All feed rollers and ink guns. All brand new. See, interleaver came from people. Impression rollers. It's all here. The ink guns. You see. Brand new.
Erwin, Julian wants to know if you have stencils for the Gestafax.
Yeah. Millions. I have tons of stencils, electronic stencils, tons. Yeah, they came with machines. Here, I have loads. Here, piles. It's all electronic stuff. You see? They came with machines. Here too. There's much more here. I have to sort out this part. And here are some parts too. It's all in boxes. Engines, complete new engines are here. Flatbeds, some flatbed stuff. The old ones is here. And when the Wellingborough factory finished and Rico took over the stuff, I could get all the drawings and manuals from what was left there of each machine, and also very old ones. So that's a special box with all the technical bulletins and technical stuff. That's all I can, but I never used it. Yeah, I feel when the machine is running okay. Here, so here a lot of control delivery feet stuff. It's all parts to fix a machine. Rollers. Here are some brand new ones. The last ones they were made for the China market in the UK till about 2000. So they give me a brand new machine. It's still boxed in for my collection. Yeah. All the rotaries. See? Yes. But when I'm never finished sorting this out. It's so much. This is for the big ones. It's so much stuff. Yeah, I found in Germany with a wooden cabinet. You see, old German brands with an engine. With a, you see? So nice. And in such a good shape.
Erwin, Wendy asks if you're planning to sell parts or what your plans for the future of this collection are.
I fix a lot of machines for all the places where I'm invited, and I suggest I suggest. Even kijken, reverse. I'm suggesting before buying a machine, send me good pictures, then I can see what's missing or what's broken or what's happening in the machine, and then I can fix it with some of my stuff. Mostly the belts are broken, the metal belts. Yeah, and every machine is different. It's every machine has its own life and its own struggles. So it's yeah, it's. I have to see the machine and I can exactly tell what to do and what I need. Yeah. So.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's my plan in future, and I'm still looking for an old school building to build up the museum. It's beside all this is the museum collection. It's stored here. All the stuff David Gestetner donated to me, to my collection of the factory museum. It's all here, but it's so much. I can show you. Then I need a building twice the size of this. I found the Gestetner head. I'm walking again. The Gestetner headquarters. Walk to this row. The Gestetner head. It's reverse. They donated me the first. I have now 3. The first Gestetner stample scanner. It's here. Here, it's here on the shelf. You see the guest effects. I have 3 now. I think I can make a working one.
What number is it, Erwin?
That's the 251. Yeah.
Jeff sent us 9 Gestafax machines.
Yeah, this is the Gestafax. The first one, this built in Germany. It's a Hell Siemens product from Dr. Hell Siemens in Kiel. He was involved with the development of the facsimile systems of the printing business. This is a German-made product. Gestetner never made stencil scanners. When German finished with the last model, the 456, then the Gestetner brothers took over the Rex Rotary factory in Denmark. So the later models are rebadged Rex Rotary machines. That's the story.
Wendy wants to know if you're going to train an apprentice.
How do you mean? How do you mean? This is more stuff. First electric. See, this is the museum stuff of the museum collection.
She means Erwin. She means who's going to be the sucker that comes over and organizes your mess for 6 months?
Yeah, send me a message. I can use 5 people to do it in 1 year, I think, at least. Yeah. So much stuff. Here also it's stored on the original cabinets.
Hey, everybody, I've been actually over to Erwin's old workshop in 2016.
Yeah.
I went and spent like a week plus with Erwin.
Yeah.
In the Netherlands, and it is just an endless amount of stuff. You know, like two of us could go there with documentation tools and cameras and scanners, and you know, we could come and work with Erwin for a month or two, and we would just put a little dent in it. Yeah. You know, and like I'm down at some point in 2022 to plan an expedition to go and for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I'm very interested in going over there and spending some time making some prints, doing documentation. We could talk about a little adventure over there to post up
And
for a
maybe,
little while.
and maybe in future, I'm talking with some other people with this to publish a book about this, to only of the mimeograph stuff. There's much more stuff here. I've factory pictures from India, from the factories all over the world, stuff from New Zealand, stuff from Australia, stuff from yeah, machines that are from the UK who were not sold in the rest of the world. So there are specific custom-made machines. So, almost all the stuff is here, but whatever has existed in the past. Yeah, and not only Gestetner, also Rick's Rotary, Ronio, GH, German brands, ABDIC. There's much more than only Gestetner here. Yeah. This is an old, I found this in Swiss, a Swiss-made machine. I have in reverse. This is a print fix. It's made in Rapperswil in Switzerland. It's a single drum like ABDIC. Look. And when I trace them, they finally give me all the old machines. This is also print fix. I have a row of 6 different models with stands too. They donate it to my museum. And so I have other machines from France, from Italy, from the Cyclos, from Czechia. There's much more than only Gestetner. See? This is all museum. GH stuff, Rex Rotary, the modern ones. Yeah. But the time is the problem. The time. It's there you see in the back an automatic flatback, an automatic sector style. That's from 1893 year. It's before 1900. They came out with this automatic version of the flatbed. You see, I hope it's on camera. Yeah. Here the first FP12 plain paper is there, the green one. I just loaded this up in my Facebook page. I found this in Germany. See, and these are also the big ones, the A3 models. Here's an A3 here's an A3 from Italy. Here one, the big ones. It's all in this corner. Here. Yeah, now we have closed the circle. Oh, it's some Rex Rotary. I missed this one. This is also Roto stuff. This is Roto. This is the 16, model 16. It's brief model. See? You see it's A3 size. Brief model. The A3 GH spirit duplicator. It's a double-sized machine. See, you can put in 2 staples of A4 or Volkskraf or 1 sheet of A3. You can make A3 prints on a spirit duplicator. Roto stuff with engines, very old, with engines in the racks. Very old, very historical. You see? Here are some Rex. So this is a Rex Rotary stencil scanner. I found it in Frankfurt. See stuff everywhere, everywhere. Machines. How far you can look. You see? Oh, yeah. But you see, it's all sorted out now. Every brand and type is. Yeah. There's more cabinets. Yeah. Loads of 304 in the series. I've loads of them. You see?
So Erwin could, you know, a group of us plus Erwin, we could we could basically repopulate the world with Gestetners.
Yeah.
That's
so, sitting again. And this is 65%. This is not all. There is more. There's all the machines you saw the last show in my printing business. That I'm mostly repairing their stuff. And at my parents' attic, it's 50 square meter completely filled up. And there is another storage at Almelo with also 3 trucks of filled up. So then I have all. But it's difficult to get it at one place because it's so much. Then I need a bigger building. So I have to think how to do it. This is the next rack. we do next week to pile it up again. And you see? See, then I can make more levels of stuff. That's the next thing I do next week. Yeah.
Amazing. Erwin, thank you so much for the tour. That was astounding.
Nothing I don't know and I don't have.
And I can tell you from personal experience, Erwin's very generous with his time and advice.
And Erwin,
I do a lot of, I help a lot of people.
For next time,
tell.
Oh, for next time, I want you to find the photograph from when you were 12 years old and you try to make your own Mimeo, your Gestetner from the drum. I want to see the picture from when you try to make your own from scratch. That's my favorite picture of you.
Oh, that's in my sleeping. That's at home. That's at home.
Yeah, show us the picture. I love that picture of you sometime.
I made that machine from boxes and from everything, and from knitting tools and everything. I made my own machine. That's right. That's true. That's my voice machine. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I made that when I was 8 years old. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Erwin, and thank you everybody who participated today. If you have any last questions, post them now. Otherwise, we've been at it for pushing 2 hours. So it's a lot of information to digest. And we'll need to do this again sometime before too long.
And yesterday I got my vaccine yesterday. So it's easier for me to travel now. Yeah. I'm visiting Stefan in Oostende this Saturday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's the first I do. Next week I think Germany. I will see. Then Austria, then the Austria thing. And then I will travel I have to adjust the machine at Nice, at Maison Riso, and he helped me to find the graves they are buried there, David and Sigmund Gestetner. The graves are in Nice. And he traced the grave. He sent me pictures of it. I think I shared it in the group. That was a few weeks ago. I want to go to that to visit the graveyard, and then maybe I go further to Barcelona to do the print. But what now happening is a lot of research studios are using and buying stuff for me, machines. They're using the Gestetner duplicator beside the Riso because they can make the masters and they have all the inks. So they need only the duplicator to do all the things and make the gradients on the stencil duplicator, or using the wax stencils and everything. I sent some tools to Brazil, to Igor, and sometimes people can't find stuff in their own country. Then I'm looking here. If I know where I'm looking for, I found the stuff here and I sent them. I sent some writing sheets to Saarbrücken. I sent some pens to Brazil. There's so much stuff here available. Yeah, and not in South America or the countries in the north.
Yeah, true.
I have a nose for it. Mostly I found it very cheap. I can see now machines in Germany. I think the people Google me. They see that the Mimeo is getting more popular now. The prices rise up. They're asking 150, 200 euros for one machine. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And it's not a good working machine. It has stayed there for 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. And I found same stuff here for 20 euros. I bought that rodeo with all the stuff for 20 euros today in an auction.
Amazing.
Yeah. Also,
okay. I was going to say,
yeah.
So before we wrap up, so thank you, Erwin. Erwin, always an enlightening experience. Always a incredible showing. I just wanted to say a few things before we wrapped up. Let's see here. I mean, a few questions that came in the chat here that I'm seeing is, I think when is the next meeting? What's the consensus from everybody? Is once every other month sounds pretty good, and then we can circle up a new list of presenters for each thing. Each time, Thursdays are great. Someone says I think that seems to be consensus for everybody. So we'll just kind of we'll keep it kind of like Thursday afternoons. The times seem to work for everybody. Yeah, so I guess with everybody, I say like, if you want to get on the mailing list, Rich and I have sent out a list, a mailing list that we have going with emails on it. If you didn't post your email in the chat, you can always send it to one of us directly. If you also, I want to say something about, everyone's asking a lot of questions, and there's people out there who have machines that have missing parts or pieces that they need. And one of my hopes for this group. Yeah, go ahead, Erwin.
I can immediately solving in 5 minutes the handle problem of Morgan.
Totally.
It took me 5 minutes. I fixed RP's machine in Budapest at the studio at Hurricane Press. It was a 425S machine. I fixed it in 5 minutes. The video is on YouTube when I did it. But you have to know it. That's mostly the problem. You have to, when you don't know the machine inside, then it's a very hard task to find out what's happening. Yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna say like,
when you send me a short video, most people do that on my Instagram. Then I can directly see, oh, you need this part. I can send some or whatever. It's so easy. Mostly, it's so easy to fix. Yeah.
I'll send you a video.
It's no problem. No problem. I've all the parts are here of every model, every machine. Yeah, and I have some scrap machines for using the parts. So yeah, that's why I have so much here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say basically like, Erwin's very open to parts. He has many parts machines. I know Rich just got all those machines from Jeff. There's gonna be.
I fixed a lot of Jim's machines in London a few years ago.
Yeah, exactly. But like, Jim's got machines too. There's going to be, Rich has got machines that are going to end up being parts machines as well for other people's machines in the US. So I think like one of my goals around even having this group, is that we all are going to be able to share stuff and materials and get to work making cool stuff. And so I know like it's a new thing for everybody that like, oh, I just got a machine. I want to get my machine active. I want to get my machine moving and working. And my vision for this whole group is that, we eventually will have a bunch of machines running around the world, and there'll be a roll call of active mimeograph machines. That would be active mimeograph machines that's are very like, hey, we've got one in San Francisco. Hey, we've got a bunch up in Iowa. Hey, we've got some in New Orleans. Hey, we've got some in Cleveland. And our goal would be to have these machines all around. And then other people who are on the first call know this, but Rich and I have talked, and Erwin and I have been talking for 5 years now about trying to get Erwin over here. And if it wasn't for COVID, probably Erwin would have been over here.
I was there. I was now in the US. Yeah,
totally. Was going to come. So I think like the goal is, and I know Wendy said, hey, grants, and I think what I'm interested in is getting Erwin over to the United States and putting together a little package for Erwin. And I think that what we would do is say, hey, Erwin, let's get Erwin over here for like, 4 weeks. Erwin can find the time to come over for a month and get him over here and pay for his stay and pay for his travel. And I think like if we all came together like that, we could get him to come and we could do a tour, and we could bring him into the East Coast, and we have about a dozen machines in Ohio, and Rich has got a couple dozen machines in Iowa, and I know that there's folks around the country, and I think we could plan a meetup, we could plan some sort of meetup in the United States, and I think that's something we could plan for next year.